Welcome to the Heartbeat Chronicles, the podcast that delves into the intricate dynamic of love, sex, relationships, lifestyle, journaling, counseling, and therapy, and the messy in between. Get ready to explore the various aspects of life's heartbeat and discover insightful conversations that resonate with you. In today's episode, we welcome you to Season 3 of Heartbeat Chronicles, and we also celebrate first anniversary since we first produced our first episode last year. We will also share our journey as a podcast, an anecdote about an episode or a moment from 2024 that was particularly impactful. Oh my goodness, can you believe it? We're actually here. Season 3 of Heartbeat Chronicles, and not just that, we're celebrating our 1-year anniversary. I'm literally bouncing with excitement right now. Happy New Year, soulful ambassadors. For those of you who've been with us from the start, thank you for making this journey absolutely incredible. And if you're just joining us, perfect timing. I'm Riley Mitchell, and this is Heartbeat Chronicles, where every beat truly tells a story. You know, I love calling our amazing listeners soulful ambassadors because that's exactly what you are. You're not just passive listeners. You're part of this beautiful community that shares, grows, and spreads love together. If this is your first time here, congratulations. You've just become a soulful ambassador yourself, and let me tell you, you're in for quite a ride. As we kick off this new season and celebrate our first year together, I can already feel that 2025 is going to be absolutely magical. We've got so many incredible stories to share, conversations to have, and hearts to touch. You know what absolutely blows my mind? The incredible support we've received from all around the world. I have to give a massive shout out to our amazing family in Pakistan. Oh my goodness, the love you've shown us is just overwhelming. Every message, every share, every moment of engagement. We see you, we appreciate you, and we absolutely don't take it for granted. And let's talk about our incredible global family. To our wonderful listeners in the US, Kenya, and the UK, you've been absolutely phenomenal. And our fantastic supporters in Sweden, Germany, Ireland, Vietnam, Canada, Bangladesh, and Brazil, you've made this journey so special. The way you've embraced our message and spread it in your communities is just beautiful. But wait, because our family just keeps growing. I'm so excited to welcome our newest soulful ambassadors from Singapore, Japan, Bolivia, Russia, Hong Kong, Argentina, Israel, Greece, Belgium, and the Netherlands. You found your way home, and we couldn't be happier to have you here. Every single one of you, whether you've been here from day one or just joined us today, you're helping create this amazing global tapestry of connection and understanding. I see all of you sharing our episodes with your friends, family, and colleagues, starting conversations in your communities, and it just warms my heart. This is exactly what Heartbeat Chronicles is all about, creating a space where everyone, no matter where they're from, can feel heard and understood. Now, to celebrate our 1-year anniversary, I've got something super special for all of you amazing, soulful ambassadors. We've partnered with Beducated to bring you an incredible 50% discount on all their online courses. Yes, you heard that right, half off. This is our way of saying thank you for being part of our journey. Getting this amazing deal is super easy. Just head over to our Instagram at heartbeat_chronicles or find me at Soulful Riley. The discount link is right there in our bio, and you've got until January 12th to grab this offer. Trust me, you don't want to miss out on this one. But wait, there's more. We've also got some incredible deals on our merch store that I'm so excited about. We've got everything from cozy hoodies that feel like a warm hug to stylish t-shirts and sweatshirts that let you wear your soulful ambassador status with pride. And for all my coffee and tea lovers out there, our travel mugs and regular mugs are perfect for your morning boost. Oh, and don't forget to check out our super cute tote bags. They're perfect for carrying around all your daily essentials. You can find all our merch through the same Instagram handles, heartbeat_chronicles or Soulful Riley. The links are right there waiting for you, and everything's on sale to celebrate our anniversary. This is the perfect time to treat yourself or grab something special for another soulful ambassador in your life. You know, when I first started this podcast back in January last year, it was something that had been living in my heart for quite a while. I kept pushing it to the back burner, telling myself, there are already so many podcasters out there. Who's going to want to listen to me? That little voice of doubt was pretty loud, I'm not going to lie. But my family, especially my cousins, they saw something in me that I wasn't fully seeing in myself. They'd always tell me, You have this gift when it comes to relationships. The way you break things down, how you give practical advice that actually works. Someone out there needs to hear this. And looking back now, seeing all the DMs I get from people asking for advice about life's messiest moments, they were absolutely right. It's funny how sometimes the people closest to us can see our potential more clearly than we can see it ourselves. They knew that these conversations about relationships, about the real, raw, sometimes complicated parts of life, these weren't just casual chats we were having around the dinner table. They were meaningful discussions that could help people navigate their own relationship journeys. When I finally decided to take that leap and start Heartbeat Chronicles, it wasn't just about sharing relationship advice. It was about creating a space where we could have honest conversations about love, life, and everything in between, where every story, every experience, every heartbeat could find its voice. And now, seeing how this community has grown, how we're helping each other navigate life's ups and downs, I'm so grateful I didn't let those initial doubts win. Let me tell you, this journey has been one wild roller coaster ride. There were moments, especially in those early days, where I seriously questioned everything. I remember staring at the stats during the first quarter, seeing just 5 listeners and feeling my heart sink. I mean, 5 people. You could fit my entire audience in a compact car. I was spending hours preparing content, recording, editing, and I started wondering if it was all worth it. I hit this really low point where I was ready to throw in the towel. The podcast wasn't monetized. It was eating up so much of my time, and I felt like I was shouting into the void. Depression started creeping in, and I actually did step away for a bit. You know that feeling when you pour your heart into something, and it feels like nobody's listening? Yeah, that hit hard. But here's where the story takes a turn, and I'm getting a bit emotional even thinking about it. We started growing, slowly at first, then a little faster. 5 listeners became 10, then 50, and now we're at over 400 listeners and downloads. Now, I know some might hear 400 and think that's small potatoes, but let me tell you, every single one of those numbers represents a real person who's chosen to spend their time with me, sharing in these conversations, these stories, these heartbeats. Looking back now, I can laugh at myself for almost giving up, because what felt like a mountain of disappointment was actually just the beginning of our climb. Every download, every new listener, every message, they're all little victories that remind me why I started this journey in the first place. And let me tell you, reaching 400 plus listeners, that's not just a number to me. That's 400 plus reasons to keep going, to keep sharing, to keep growing together. Looking ahead to 2025, I'm buzzing with excitement about where we're taking Heartbeat Chronicles. We're not just dreaming small here, we're going big. I'm talking exciting collaborations with amazing guests who'll bring fresh perspectives to our conversations. And yes, finally getting this show monetized is on the horizon, which means we can create even better content for you, my amazing soulful ambassadors. But you know what? None of that really captures what this journey is truly about. Let me share something personal with you. Last year, we did this episode called I Am Hopeless. Now what? Finding hope in hopelessness. And honestly, it changed me. Creating that episode brought me right back to my own darkest moments, times when I felt like I was drowning in hopelessness. When I sat down to write that episode, I found myself reliving every moment of despair I'd ever experienced, but something magical happened during that process. As I shared tools and stories about finding light in the darkness, I felt this incredible connection with all of you. The messages I received afterward, wow. So many of you reached out to share your own stories of finding hope when everything seemed lost. That episode reminded me why we're here. It's not about the numbers or the monetization, though those things help us keep going. It's about those moments when someone listening realizes they're not alone. When they discover that even in their darkest hour, there's still a tiny spark of hope waiting to be fanned into a flame. That's the real heartbeat of what we do here. Every story we share, every conversation we have, it's all about finding that pulse of hope, that rhythm of resilience that lives within each of us. And as we step into this new chapter together, that's what I want to keep building. A space where hope isn't just a word, but a living, breathing force that connects us all. You know, there's something magical about taking a moment to pause and reflect, especially as we navigate through this wild journey called 2024. I've been doing a lot of thinking lately about all the lessons life has thrown my way, and I just had to share them with you. Today, we're going to dive deep into some pretty powerful stuff. We're talking about love in all its messy glory, relationships that have shaped us, the sometimes uncomfortable but always rewarding path of personal growth, and the whole wellness journey that keeps us grounded through it all. I've got to tell you, this year has been quite the teacher. Whether you've had your heart broken, found new love, struggled with personal challenges, or celebrated amazing victories, I bet you've picked up some wisdom along the way too. So let's unpack these experiences together and see what gems we can find in all of it. You know what's fascinating about love? It's probably life's greatest teacher, even when the lessons feel like they're breaking us apart. This past year has taught me some pretty profound things about love, and I've got to tell you, some of these lessons weren't exactly gentle, but man, were they powerful. First up, let's talk about the game changer, self-love. I used to think this was just some trendy buzzword until I actually experienced what happens when you put yourself first. It's like they say on airplanes, put your own oxygen mask on before helping others. When I finally started treating myself with the same kindness I was desperately trying to give to everyone else, everything shifted. The whole boundaries thing, that was another eye-opener. I used to think setting boundaries meant you were pushing love away. Plot twist. It actually makes love stronger. It's like building a fence around a garden. You're not keeping the flowers from growing, you're protecting them so they can bloom. Let me tell you about heartbreak, because we've all been there, right? It feels like the end of the world when you're in it, but here's the thing I've learned. It's more like a comma than a period. It's this painful pause that forces you to stop, reflect, and eventually opens doors you never knew existed. The crazy part about vulnerability is that even after getting hurt, choosing to stay open to love takes some serious guts. Every time I've chosen to be vulnerable again, it's like building a stronger muscle. Sure, it's scary, but that's where the real magic happens. Here's a truth bomb that took me way too long to figure out. Love shouldn't feel like you're constantly in battle mode. Real love has this quiet strength to it. It's steady, it's nurturing, and it doesn't leave you feeling like you're always fighting for your worth. And healing? Oh boy, that's a journey all its own. You can't microwave healing. Trust me, I've tried. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is give yourself time to process, feel, and grow through the tough stuff. No shortcuts, no quick fixes, just honest to goodness time and patience. The most beautiful lesson of all, love doesn't have an expiration date. Every time I thought I'd never love again, life had other plans. It's like your heart has this amazing ability to expand, to heal, and to find new ways to connect, even when you think it's impossible. Let's dive into something that's been on my mind a lot lately, the intricate dance of relationships. You know, it's funny how we often think love is the hardest part, but really it's the day-to-day relationship stuff that really tests us. Communication has been my biggest revelation this year. It's not just about talking, it's about really hearing each other. I've learned that sometimes what's not being said is just as important as what is. Those awkward silences and subtle shifts in tone, they're telling us something too. I used to think that if you loved someone enough, everything else would just fall into place. But compatibility? That's the real MVP of lasting relationships. You can adore someone with your whole heart, but if you're constantly pulling in opposite directions about the big stuff, your values, your goals, where you see your life heading, that's like trying to paddle a boat upstream. Eventually, you're just going to wear yourself out. Here's something that hit me like a ton of bricks. Respect isn't just about being polite or saying please and thank you. It's about honoring who someone is at their core. When you start compromising your boundaries or dimming your light to keep someone else comfortable, that's not love. That's a slow fade of who you really are. The thing about healthy relationships is they're like gardens. They need constant tending. Some days you're pulling weeds, other days you're just enjoying the flowers. But you can't just plant the seeds and expect everything to grow perfectly without any effort. I've had to learn the hard way that maintaining your own identity in a relationship isn't selfish. It's necessary. The strongest relationships I've seen are between people who have their own lives, their own dreams, and their own identity outside of being someone's partner. It's like having two whole pizzas that complement each other instead of two halves trying to make one whole. Let's talk about actions and words for a minute. Words are beautiful, they're powerful, but actions, they're the real truth tellers. Someone can promise you the moon and stars, but if their actions are showing you pebbles and darkness, Believe what they're doing, not what they're saying. Conflict used to terrify me in relationships. I thought it meant something was wrong. Now I understand that disagreements are just opportunities to understand each other better. It's not about winning or losing, it's about growing together through the tough stuff. The hardest lesson? Sometimes love isn't enough. Some relationships are meant to be chapters, not the whole book. And that's okay. Every relationship, even the ones that end, teaches us something valuable about ourselves and what we need in a partner. Trust. Now that's the foundation everything else stands on. Once it's broken, it's like trying to put together a shattered mirror. You might get all the pieces back in place, but you'll still see the cracks. That's why it's so precious, so worth protecting. And you know what keeps it all alive? Laughter. The ability to find joy in the simple moments, to not take everything so seriously. Because at the end of the day, relationships should add light to your life, not dim it. You know what's fascinating about personal growth? It's like being the star of your own renovation show, except the property you're working on is yourself. Last year has been quite the journey of self-discovery, and I've got to tell you, it hasn't always been pretty, but it's been real. I used to think growth meant making these massive, dramatic changes, but I've learned it's actually about those tiny, consistent steps that add up over time. It's like building a house. You can't just throw up the walls and expect it to stand. You need a solid foundation, and that foundation, that's self-awareness. Speaking of self-awareness, let me tell you about my dance with failure last year. I used to run from it like it was some kind of monster under the bed. Now, I see it differently. Every time I've fallen flat on my face, and trust me, there have been some spectacular falls, I've gotten up knowing something I didn't know before. The funny thing about comfort zones is they're actually pretty uncomfortable once you realize they're just fancy prisons we build for ourselves. Each time I've pushed past that invisible barrier of what feels safe, something amazing has happened. Sure, it's been scary, but that's where the magic happens. Here's something that really hit home last year. You can't pour from an empty cup. I used to think taking care of myself was selfish, that I needed to be everything for everyone else first. But that's like trying to drive a car with no gas. You're not going anywhere. The comparison trap. Oh, that's a sneaky one. Social media makes it so easy to feel like everyone else has their life figured out while you're still trying to match your socks. But I've learned that someone else's highlight reel isn't a fair comparison to my behind-the-scenes footage. You want to know what's really transformed my growth journey? Accepting that I'm not going to get it right all the time. In fact, I'm probably going to mess up spectacularly on a regular basis. But that's okay. Perfection is boring anyway. It's the messy middle where all the good stuff happens. Small wins deserve big celebrations. That's something I wish I'd known earlier. Those tiny victories, finally establishing a morning routine, saying no to something that didn't serve me, or even just making my bed every day. They're the building blocks of bigger changes. The most powerful shift? Realizing that growth isn't linear. Some days you're conquering the world, and others you're eating cereal for dinner and questioning all your life choices. Both are valid parts of the journey. Growth is more like a spiral. You might pass the same points, but you're at a different level each time. And here's the real kicker. Everything I thought I knew about personal growth got flipped on its head when I realized it's not about becoming a new person. It's about becoming more of who you already are, just with better boundaries, clearer priorities, and maybe a bit more wisdom about which battles are worth fighting. Let's talk about wellness. And I don't just mean the Instagram-worthy green smoothies and meditation poses. Last year has taught me that real wellness is more like a complex recipe than a simple smoothie. It's about finding the right ingredients that work for you. And sometimes that means trying some pretty interesting combinations. I've discovered that treating our bodies like a 24/7 convenience store just doesn't cut it. You can't keep withdrawing energy without making deposits. Think about it. We wouldn't expect our phones to run without charging them. So why do we expect that from ourselves? The game changer for me was realizing that self-care isn't just bubble baths and face masks. Sometimes it's setting boundaries that make your palms sweat. Sometimes it's finally making that doctor's appointment you've been putting off. And yes, sometimes it is actually taking that bubble bath without feeling guilty about it. Sleep. Oh, let me tell you about sleep. I used to wear my lack of it like some badge of honor. I'll sleep when I'm dead, I'd say, completely missing the irony that I was probably fast-tracking myself there. Now I treat my bedtime like a non negotiable appointment with myself, and it's revolutionary. Movement has been another eye opener. I used to think exercise meant punishing myself on a treadmill while watching the minutes tick by like years. But then I discovered that movement could actually be enjoyable. Whether it's dancing in my kitchen like nobody's watching or taking a walk just to feel the sun on my face, it's about finding what makes your body happy, not what burns the most calories. The mind body connection? That's not just some wellness buzzword. When my mind is stressed, my body starts sending out SOS signals faster than a ship in distress. Headaches, tension, that weird eye twitch that makes me look like I'm perpetually winking at everyone, they're all just my body's way of saying, hey, maybe we should deal with what's going on upstairs. Here's something nobody tells you about wellness. It's okay if your version doesn't look like anyone else's. Maybe meditation makes you more anxious instead of less. Maybe you find peace in gardening instead of yoga. The only wellness routine that works is the one you'll actually stick to. Hydration deserves its own highlight reel. Who knew that something as simple as drinking enough water could make such a difference? It's like giving your body's engine the oil change it desperately needs. And yes, I still sometimes forget, but I'm learning that progress isn't about perfection. The biggest lesson? Wellness isn't about following some strict regimen or reaching some mythical state of perfect health. It's about creating a sustainable relationship with yourself. It's about listening to your body's whispers before they become shouts. And sometimes it's about acknowledging that watching 3 episodes of your favorite show is exactly the medicine you need. Remember, we're not trying to become wellness warriors. We're just trying to feel good in our own skin. And that journey looks different for everyone. Some days you'll nail it, other days you'll barely manage to brush your teeth. Both are okay. The goal isn't to be perfect, it's to be perfectly imperfect and keep showing up for yourself anyway. As I wrap up these reflections on 2024, I can't help but smile at how much life can teach us in just 12 months. You know, it's funny. We often enter a year with all these grand plans and expectations, but it's the unexpected lessons that end up being the most valuable. Looking back, it's clear that every challenge, every joy, and even every awkward moment has been weaving together into this beautiful tapestry of growth. The love lessons that broke our hearts only to rebuild them stronger. The relationships that tested us but taught us what we're really made of. The personal growth that sometimes felt more like growing pains, but shaped us nonetheless. And yes, even those wellness journey stumbles that reminded us we're perfectly imperfect humans, not Instagram filters. What strikes me most is how all these pieces, love, relationships, personal growth, and wellness, aren't separate chapters but parts of the same story. They're like different instruments in an orchestra, each playing their own tune but creating something magnificent together. So as we carry these lessons forward, remember that you're not just surviving, you're evolving. Every setback is setting you up for a comeback, and every victory, no matter how small, is worth celebrating. Here's to taking these lessons and turning them into stepping stones for whatever comes next. Because if there's one thing I know for sure, it's that the learning never stops. And thank goodness for that. You know, I've got to be honest with you. One of the hardest chapters of last year was my breakup. It's funny how you can think you've got it all figured out, that you found your person, and then life just comes along and completely reshuffles the deck. This was someone I had started planning a future with. We had talked about marriage, kids, even picked out names. I mean, I really thought this was it. When things started falling apart, it felt like watching a house of cards collapse in slow motion. The dreams we built together, the plans we made, they all started crumbling one by one. I remember laying on my bed just sobbing my eyes out while binge watching romantic movies on Netflix. It hit me that I wouldn't be sharing those little moments with him anymore. No more Sunday morning pancakes, no more silly dance parties in the kitchen, no more late night talks about our hopes and fears. But you know what's crazy? In the midst of all that heartache, something unexpected started happening. As I began picking up the pieces, I discovered parts of myself I had somehow lost along the way. I started remembering the things that made me, well, me. The healing wasn't linear. Some days I felt on top of the world and others I could barely get out of bed. But each day, I learned to be a little kinder to myself. I started understanding that a relationship ending doesn't mean I failed. Sometimes it just means that chapter of the story is complete. Now, standing on the other side of that heartbreak, I can see how it was actually a doorway to something beautiful. It taught me that I'm so much stronger than I ever gave myself credit for. It showed me that sometimes losing love can lead you back to the most important love of all, the love you have for yourself. And here's the really beautiful part. I'm finally at a place where my heart feels open again. Not because I'm desperate to fill a void, but because I've done the work to heal, to grow, and to truly understand what I want and deserve in love. That's the thing about transformation. It doesn't happen to you, it happens through you. Losing my job in the middle of the year, now that was a plot twist I definitely wasn't ready for. Being the one my family counts on to keep the lights on and food on the table, it felt like the ground just disappeared from under my feet. You know that feeling when your stomach drops on a roller coaster? It was like that, except the ride wasn't ending. I remember the night after I got the news, staring at our bills spread across the kitchen table, trying to make numbers work that just wouldn't add up. I'd wake up at 3 a.m., heart racing, wondering how we were going to make it through the next month. But something incredible happened during those sleepless nights. In my darkest moments, when I felt completely lost, I found myself turning to prayer. Not the formal, structured kind, but the raw, honest conversations with God. The kind where you're just pouring your heart out, mascara running down your face, not caring how messy it looks. And let me tell you, God showed up in ways that still leave me in awe. It started small at first. A freelance project here, a consulting opportunity there. Then bigger doors started opening. Remembering the projects we'd been sitting on for years, suddenly they started taking off. It was like watching dominoes fall in reverse. Everything just started falling into place. The most incredible part, our house debt, that mountain that seemed impossible to climb, we managed to clear it. Sure, we've still got some financial hurdles to tackle, but that weight being lifted felt like taking a full breath for the first time in years. Then came the job offer. Not just any job, a better one than I had before. Better pay, better hours, and get this, it's actually aligned with what I'm passionate about. Looking back now, losing my job wasn't the end of the road like I thought. It was more like a detour that led to an even better destination. Through it all, I learned something profound about faith. It's not just about believing when everything's going great. It's about trusting even when the road ahead is pitch black and you can't see where your next step will land. Sometimes, actually, those moments of complete darkness are when the most incredible miracles unfold. Can I just take a moment to celebrate with you all? Because this past year has been absolutely incredible for our little podcast family. When I started Heartbeat Chronicles, I never imagined we'd grow into such an amazing community. Would you believe we've hit over 400 downloads? I still pinch myself every time I see those numbers. But you know what makes me even happier than those download numbers? It's the community we've built together. Every message, every comment, every share. You've turned this podcast into something so much more than just my voice talking into a microphone. You've made it a movement, a family, a safe space for real conversations. On a personal note, this year has been transformative in ways I never expected. Remember how I always talked about wanting to prioritize my health? Well, I finally did it. 25 pounds down, and while my journey isn't over, I'm celebrating every single victory. Even bought myself some new clothes last week. And let me tell you, trying on a size smaller feels pretty amazing. My spiritual journey has deepened in ways I couldn't have imagined. Those morning meditation sessions I kept putting off, they're now my favorite part of the day. It's funny how the things we resist the most often become the things we need the most. Finding that quiet time, that connection with God, has brought such clarity and peace into my life. And can we talk about work for a second? This new job isn't just a job, it's become a calling. Every day I get to combine my passion with my purpose, and it doesn't even feel like work most days. Plus, being able to clear our house debt, that's the kind of freedom I used to only dream about. You know what's beautiful about celebrating these wins? It reminds us that growth isn't always about the big, dramatic moments. Sometimes it's in the small daily choices, choosing to show up, choosing to try again, choosing to believe in better things ahead. Every time you choose to press play on this podcast, you're choosing growth. And that's worth celebrating too. You know what absolutely fills my heart? Reading your messages. Every single one of them touches me in ways I can't even explain. Let me share some of these beautiful words from our soulful ambassadors around the world. Sarah from Nairobi wrote something that brought tears to my eyes. She said this podcast has become her safe space, like therapy in her ears. Sarah, knowing that I can be that source of comfort for you means everything to me. And then there's Jason in Atlanta. He compared our episodes to conversations with a wise friend. Jason, I love that because that's exactly what I aim for. Just real, honest conversations about life and love. Aisha's message from Accra really got me excited. She took what we discussed about boundaries and actually implemented it in her life. That's what this is all about, taking these conversations and turning them into real change. Maria in Toronto listens during her commute, and it gives her hope and clarity. You know what, Maria? You give me hope too. Every listener who takes time out of their busy day to tune in reminds me why I do this. Ahmed from Dubai shared how our discussions about relationships helped him communicate better with his partner. That's the ripple effect of healing. When we work on ourselves, it touches everyone around us. Lillian in London found us during a dark time, and Carlos in Sao Paulo started his journey of forgiveness after one of our episodes. Your stories of transformation inspire me more than you know. Priya from Mumbai thanked me for being honest about not having everything figured out. Truth is, we're all just figuring it out together, aren't we? And Samuel in Johannesburg, making this podcast part of his Sunday ritual. That's the kind of connection that makes my heart soar. And Hannah in Sydney, your message about learning self-love. That's exactly why I started this podcast. Because sometimes we all need a reminder that we're worthy of love, starting with loving ourselves. Share your journey with us on social media using #Heartbeat Chronicles 2024. Let's create a tapestry of stories that inspire and uplift each other. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now. And as we step into 2024, remember that every challenge you've faced has made you stronger. Every tear you've shed has watered the garden of your growth. You're not just surviving, you're thriving. And I'm so proud of how far you've come. Keep showing up for yourself. Keep believing in the magic of new beginnings. And most importantly, keep your heart open to all the beautiful possibilities that lie ahead. I'll be right here, walking this path with you, celebrating your wins, and holding space for your growth. Share your journey with us on our Instagram handle at @Heartbeat_Chronicles using #Heartbeat Chronicles 2025. Let's create a tapestry of stories that inspire and uplift each other. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now. And as we step into 2025, remember that every challenge you've faced has made you stronger. Every tear you've shed has watered the garden of your growth. You're not just surviving, you're thriving. And I'm so proud of how far you've come. Keep showing up for yourself. Keep believing in the magic of new beginnings. And most importantly, keep your heart open to all the beautiful possibilities that lie ahead. I'll be right here, walking this path with you, celebrating your wins, and holding space for your growth. Keep shining, keep growing, and keep spreading love wherever you go. Your light makes this world a brighter place. You know that magical feeling when a new year stretches out before you, full of possibilities? That's exactly what we're tapping into today as we talk about setting those big, juicy goals for 2025. I've been doing some serious soul searching lately, thinking about where I want to take Heartbeat Chronicles and my personal journey in the coming year. And let me tell you, I've got some pretty ambitious dreams cooking up. But don't worry, we're not just going to talk about my vision. I'm going to share some real practical strategies that you can use to map out your own amazing year ahead. We're going to get super honest today. I'll be sharing some areas where I'm still growing, because who isn't, right? And we'll explore how to set goals that are both exciting and actually achievable. Think of this episode as your personal planning session with a friend who's right there in the trenches with you, figuring it all out one step at a time. Looking ahead to 2025, I can barely contain my excitement about where Heartbeat Chronicles is heading. You know that feeling when your heart is just bursting with possibilities? That's exactly where I'm at right now. Let me paint you a picture of what I envision for our growing community. First and foremost, I'm committed to bringing you content that doesn't just scratch the surface, but really dives deep into the topics that matter most to you. We're talking about love, relationships, mental health, personal growth, all those juicy topics that make life rich and meaningful. I'm planning to introduce some fresh themes and segments that I think will really resonate with your journey. One thing I'm super pumped about is the amazing collaborations coming up. I've been connecting with some incredible thought leaders and experts who share our values, and we're cooking up some really special episodes. Imagine having deep, meaningful conversations with people who've walked the path you're on and can share their wisdom in a way that feels like chatting with a close friend. Now, let's talk about our community, my wonderful, soulful ambassadors. My vision is to create more ways for us to connect and support each other. I want this to be more than just a podcast. I want it to be a movement of like-minded souls coming together to share, grow, and lift each other up. Speaking of growth, I've got some pretty ambitious goals for our YouTube channel and Instagram presence. I want to create more engaging video content that complements our audio episodes, giving you different ways to consume and connect with our message. And our Instagram community? I see it becoming this vibrant space where we can share daily inspiration, behind-the-scenes moments, and really build those meaningful connections. I'm also being real with you. Part of this vision includes monetizing the podcast. But here's why this excites me. It means we can invest in creating even better content, reaching more people, and building something truly spectacular together. Every penny earned will go right back into making Heartbeat Chronicles an even more valuable part of your life. The most beautiful part of this vision? It's not just about me. It's about us. Every comment you leave, every share, every review helps us grow this community and spread our message of love, healing, and positivity. Together, we're going to create something truly magical in 2025. Let's talk about growth in 2025. I'm setting my sights high and taking you along for the ride. My theme for this year is growth with a capital G, and I've mapped out 5 key areas where I'm ready to level up. First up, let's talk money, honey. I'm done playing small with my finances. This year is all about building that financial freedom we all dream about. I'm focusing on growing my savings, kissing any lingering debt goodbye, and creating multiple income streams. Think of it like planting different money trees. Some might grow faster than others, but they're all part of creating that financial forest we need for long-term security. On the career front, I'm ready to step into my power in a whole new way. Heartbeat Chronicles isn't just a podcast. It's becoming a movement, a brand, a force for positive change. I'm putting myself out there more, seeking those big opportunities, and building partnerships that align with our mission. It's about creating something that not only generates income, but also generates impact. Now let's get personal and talk about love. You know, I always keep it real with you, and this year, I'm opening my heart wide open. I'm working on building deeper connections, both with myself and others. It's about being vulnerable, communicating clearly, and creating space for meaningful relationships. Whether it's nurturing existing relationships or welcoming new love into my life, I'm ready for that next level of emotional growth. When it comes to personal care, I'm making myself a priority. And no, that's not selfish, it's essential. I'm committing to regular exercise, mindful eating, and actually sticking to a sleep schedule. Yes, I'm looking at you, late night scroll sessions. It's about treating my body like the temple it is and giving my mind the peace it deserves. Last but definitely not least, travel. Oh, the places we'll go. I'm planning to step out of my comfort zone and explore new horizons. Whether it's a spontaneous weekend getaway or that big international adventure I've been dreaming about, travel is going to be my teacher in 2025. There's something magical about experiencing new places and cultures that just opens your mind and feeds your soul. The beautiful thing about growth is that it's not linear. It's more like a dance. Sometimes we step forward, sometimes back, but we keep moving. And that's exactly what 2025 is going to be about. Keeping that momentum going, building on what we've created, and reaching for those stars that seemed too far away before. Let's get real for a minute and talk about the areas where I'm still growing. Because growth isn't just about celebrating wins, it's about acknowledging where we can do better. And I know you'll relate to some of these struggles. Time management is my eternal dance partner, and sometimes we're definitely stepping on each other's toes. I catch myself trying to juggle way too many projects at once, spreading myself thin like butter on too much toast. Sound familiar? I'm learning that saying no to some things means saying a bigger yes to what really matters. This year, I'm committed to managing my time like the precious resource it is. Then there's consistency. Oh, consistency. Some weeks I'm posting content like a social media superhero, and other weeks, well, let's just say my Instagram feed gets a little lonely. I'm working on finding that sweet spot between quality and quantity, creating a rhythm that works for both me and you. Because showing up regularly isn't just about ticking boxes, it's about building trust with this amazing community. Let's talk about self discipline, shall we? Those moments when Netflix is calling my name, but my content calendar is giving me the side eye, or when my morning routine turns into a snooze button marathon. I'm getting better at catching myself in these moments and remembering my bigger why. It's not about being perfect. It's about making progress, one choice at a time. Boundaries are another big one for me. Being a natural people pleaser means I sometimes find myself saying yes when my energy tank is running on empty. This year, I'm learning that no can be a complete sentence, and protecting my energy isn't selfish. It's necessary. If you've ever felt guilty about setting boundaries, consider this your permission slip to prioritize your well being. And perfectionism. Oh, my old friend, perfectionism. I can't tell you how many times I've held back content because it wasn't perfect enough. But here's what I'm learning: perfect is the enemy of done. Sometimes good enough is actually perfect enough. This year, I'm embracing progress over perfection, and I invite you to do the same. These aren't just my challenges. I know many of you are nodding along because you face similar struggles, and that's exactly why I'm sharing them. We're all works in progress, and there's something beautiful about growing together, supporting each other through the ups and downs of personal development. Now, let's dive into some practical strategies for turning those dreams into reality. I absolutely swear by the SMART framework for goal setting, and I've seen it work wonders. Instead of saying, I want to grow my podcast, I get specific. I want to reach 10,000 monthly listeners by December 2025. See how that hits different? When you're setting your own goals, think specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Let's break that down. Instead of, I want to save more money, try, I will save $500 monthly by reducing dining out to twice a week. That's something you can track, measure, and actually achieve. But before we jump into planning the future, we need to acknowledge where we've been. I spend at least 30 minutes every Sunday reflecting on my past week. What worked? What didn't? What patterns am I seeing? This reflection time is pure gold, my friends. It helps you course correct before small hiccups become major roadblocks. One of my absolute favorite tools is my vision board. And I'm not talking about just slapping some pretty pictures on a board. I get intentional with it. Every image represents a specific goal or feeling I want to manifest. I keep it right by my desk. And let me tell you, seeing those visual reminders every day keeps me focused and motivated. Journaling has been another game changer for me. I use specific prompts like, what's one small step I can take today toward my biggest goal? Or what's holding me back and how can I overcome it? These questions help me dig deeper and stay accountable. Here's a pro tip that's really leveled up my goal setting game. Break down those big, scary goals into quarterly milestones. It's like building a staircase to your dreams instead of trying to take one giant leap. Each quarter, I set 3 main priorities. This keeps me focused and stops that overwhelming feeling of trying to do everything at once. Remember, goals aren't just about the destination. They're about who you become on the journey. I've started celebrating small wins along the way, and it's amazing how much momentum this creates. Even something as simple as checking off a daily task deserves a little happy dance. And don't forget to build in some flexibility. Life has a funny way of throwing curveballs, so while your goals should stretch you, they should also bend before they break. Think of them as a GPS. If you take a detour, it doesn't mean you failed. It just means you're recalculating your route. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of putting these strategies into action. I want to share some real practical steps that have worked wonders for me, and I know they can work for you too. The first thing you need to do is grab a notebook or open a new document. This is your dedicated space for goal planning. Start by writing down your wildest dreams for 2025. Don't censor yourself here. We'll refine them later. Once you have those big dreams on paper, let's make them actionable. Pick your top 3 priorities. Yes, just 3. I know it's tempting to tackle everything at once, but trust me, focus is your friend here. For each of those priorities, create what I call a success roadmap. Break down that big goal into monthly milestones. Let's say your goal is to save $6,000 by the end of the year. That's $500 per month, which breaks down to about $17 per day. Suddenly that big, scary number feels much more manageable, right? Now here's where people often stumble. They don't plan for obstacles. Take a minute to write down 3 things that might get in your way. For that savings goal, maybe it's unexpected expenses, impulse purchases, or social pressure to spend. Now, write down your strategy for each obstacle. This isn't being negative, it's being prepared. Another common pitfall is trying to change too much too fast. Instead of completely overhauling your life on January 1st, pick one habit to focus on each month. Master it. Make it automatic, then add another. This is how lasting change happens. Set up a weekly check-in with yourself. I do mine every Sunday evening with a cup of tea. Look at what worked, what didn't, and adjust accordingly. Remember, your goals aren't set in stone. They're meant to guide you, not restrict you. Create accountability for yourself. Share your goals with someone who will actually check in on your progress. Better yet, find an accountability partner who's working towards similar goals. When I started doing this, my follow-through improved dramatically. Here's a crucial tip that many people miss. Schedule your goals into your calendar. If it's not scheduled, it's not real. Want to work out 3 times a week? Block those times out. Want to work on your side hustle? Schedule specific hours. Treat these appointments with yourself as seriously as you would a meeting with your boss. And please, avoid the comparison trap. Your journey is yours alone. While it's great to get inspired by others, measuring your chapter 1 against someone else's chapter 20 will only discourage you. Focus on your own progress and celebrate every single win, no matter how small. Wow, what a journey we've been on today. I truly hope you're feeling inspired and equipped to create your own incredible vision for 2025. Remember, goal setting isn't just about writing down what you want to achieve. It's about believing in yourself and taking those small, consistent steps toward your dreams. Don't feel overwhelmed by the process. Start where you are with what you have. Your goals don't need to look like mine or anyone else's. They just need to feel true to you and light that spark of excitement in your heart. I'd absolutely love to hear about your vision for 2025. Share your goals with our community in the comments or drop me a DM on Instagram. Let's support each other, celebrate our wins, and grow together. You never know who might be inspired by your dreams. Remember, you're capable of so much more than you imagine. Trust the process, be patient with yourself, and keep showing up every day. This time next year, you'll be amazed at how far you've come. Here's to making 2025 our best year yet. Can you believe it? Today we're actually here, celebrating 1 whole year of Heartbeat Chronicles. I'm honestly getting a bit emotional just thinking about it. You know that feeling when you look back at something you've created and it just hits you how far you've come? That's exactly where I am right now. This past year has been absolutely wild, in the best possible way. We've laughed together, probably cried a little too, and had some seriously real conversations about love, life, and everything in between. From our very first episode to where we are now, it's been quite the ride, hasn't it? Today's episode is extra special because we're going to take a little trip down memory lane. I'm going to share some of the most incredible moments we've had on this show, the lessons we've learned, and honestly, just gush about how amazing this community has become. Because let's face it, Heartbeat Chronicles wouldn't be what it is without each and every one of you tuning in and sharing your hearts with me. You know, thinking back to that very first episode, I can still feel those butterflies in my stomach. I was sitting in my makeshift recording space, and when I say makeshift, I mean literally surrounded by pillows and blankets trying to get decent audio quality. I had this vision, this dream of creating a space where we could have real, unfiltered conversations about love and relationships, but I had no idea if anyone would actually want to listen. That first episode was rough around the edges, but it was so authentically me. I remember hitting that record button and just letting my heart speak. I talked about why I wanted to start this podcast and how desperately I felt we needed more honest conversations about relationships in our lives. Looking back now, I can see how that episode really set the tone for everything that followed. There was no pretense, no fancy production, just raw, honest dialogue. I promised myself and my future listeners that this would always be a judgment-free zone, a place where we could talk about the stuff that usually stays hidden behind closed doors. What's funny is that some of the things I was most nervous about sharing in that first episode, my own relationship struggles, the lessons I learned the hard way, the questions I was still wrestling with, those ended up being the exact things that resonated most with you all. It taught me early on that vulnerability isn't just okay, it's essential. That when we share our truth, however messy it might be, we create space for others to do the same. You know what really changed the game for us? Season 1, Episode 5, our collaboration with Beducated. I'll never forget sitting down to plan that episode, wondering if we were maybe pushing the boundaries a little too far. But sometimes the most important conversations are the ones that make us a little uncomfortable at first. Let me tell you, I was not prepared for the response we got. My inbox literally exploded after that episode aired. It turns out that so many of you had been waiting for permission to talk about pleasure and intimacy openly, without shame or embarrassment. We weren't just talking about the birds and the bees, we were having real, honest conversations about sexual wellness, about understanding our bodies, and about communicating our needs to our partners. The messages I received were incredible. There was this one listener who wrote to me saying she'd finally found the courage to have a conversation with her partner of 15 years about what she really wanted in the bedroom. Another shared how the episode helped them overcome years of shame around their desires. These stories just kept coming, and each one reminded me why we started this podcast in the first place. What I loved most about that collaboration was how it broke down these artificial barriers we've built around talking about pleasure. We proved that you can discuss intimacy in a way that's both educational and engaging, respectful, but real. It wasn't about being scandalous or shocking. It was about acknowledging that pleasure is a natural, important part of human connection. That episode really became a turning point for Heartbeat Chronicles. It showed us that our community was ready for these deeper, more challenging conversations. It gave us the confidence to keep pushing boundaries, to keep asking the hard questions, and to keep creating space for topics that might make some people blush. Because at the end of the day, that's what growth is all about. Being brave enough to step into those uncomfortable spaces and turn them into opportunities for learning and connection. You know, when we recorded the episode, Finding Hope in Hopelessness, I had no idea it would become such a defining moment for our show. I was going through my own rough patch at the time, questioning everything, and I decided to just be real about it. Sometimes life hits you so hard that even getting out of bed feels like climbing Mount Everest. The response was immediate and overwhelming. I remember sitting at my desk, tears streaming down my face, reading message after message from listeners who felt seen for the first time. There was this one email that particularly stuck with me, from a listener who had been struggling with depression for years. She wrote that hearing someone else talk about hopelessness without trying to immediately fix it or sugarcoat it made her feel less alone. What really struck me about that episode was how it created this ripple effect of vulnerability. Once we opened up that conversation, stories started pouring in from everywhere. People weren't just sharing their darkness, they were sharing their light too. Their small victories, their tiny moments of hope, the unexpected ways they found strength when they thought they had nothing left. I think what made that episode resonate so deeply was that we didn't try to wrap everything up in a neat little bow. We sat with the discomfort, acknowledged the pain, and then gently together started exploring what hope could look like. Not the Instagram-worthy, highlight reel kind of hope, but the messy, real-life version that sometimes looks like just making it through another day. The community discussions that followed were incredible. People started sharing their own strategies for finding hope in dark times. Some talked about how their pets kept them going. Others found purpose in helping others, and some discovered hope in the smallest things, like the way sunlight hits their coffee cup in the morning. It wasn't about grand gestures or dramatic transformations. It was about those tiny pinpricks of light that help us navigate through the darkness. That episode taught me something profound about what we're doing here at Heartbeat Chronicles. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply create space for people to be honest about their struggles, to say me too, and to remind each other that even in our darkest moments, we're not walking alone. You know what really shook things up around here? Our unpopular opinion on family series. Let me tell you, when we decided to tackle family dynamics head on, I knew we were stepping into some serious territory, but I had no idea just how much it would resonate with everyone. We dove into those uncomfortable conversations that nobody wants to have at the dinner table. You know, the ones about setting boundaries with toxic family members, or the guilt that comes with distancing yourself from relatives who just aren't good for your mental health. And boy, did that open the floodgates. I remember reading through the comments and messages, just blown away by how many of you had been carrying these heavy feelings around, thinking you were somehow wrong for wanting to protect your peace. There was this one message that really got to me. Someone wrote about how they'd spent years feeling like a terrible person for limiting contact with their mother. But after hearing our discussions, they finally felt validated in their decision. The series sparked some incredibly raw and honest conversations in our community. We talked about everything, from dealing with judgmental relatives to navigating holiday gatherings with family members who just don't understand boundaries. What really struck me was how many of you found strength in knowing you weren't alone in these struggles. One of the biggest lessons we all learned together was that family relationships don't have to follow some predetermined script. Sometimes love means setting firm boundaries. Sometimes it means choosing yourself, even when that choice isn't popular with others. And you know what? That's completely okay. What started as a potentially controversial series turned into this beautiful space where we could all be honest about the complexities of family relationships. We learned that it's possible to love someone deeply while still acknowledging that their presence in your life needs limits or boundaries. That's not being selfish. It's being honest. And sometimes that honesty is the most loving thing we can offer, both to ourselves and to our families. The conversations that came out of this series showed us that when we dare to speak our truth, even when it's uncomfortable, we create space for others to do the same. And that's exactly what we're all about here at Heartbeat Chronicles. Creating those spaces where the real, messy, complicated parts of life can be talked about openly and without judgment. You know, this past year of doing Heartbeat Chronicles has completely transformed my understanding of love and relationships. It's funny how you think you know something, and then life, or in this case, a podcast, comes along and flips everything on its head. I've learned that love isn't this perfect Instagram-worthy highlight reel we often see. It's messy, it's complicated, and sometimes it looks nothing like what we expected. Through all our conversations here, I've realized that love is more about the everyday choices we make than those big, grand gestures we see in movies. The most profound lesson? Communication isn't just about talking. It's about having the courage to be uncomfortable. You know those conversations you really don't want to have? Those are usually the ones that matter most. I used to think I was pretty good at communicating until I started hearing your stories and realizing how much deeper we could all go. One thing that really hit home for me was understanding that self-love isn't selfish. For the longest time, I thought putting myself first meant I was somehow failing at relationships. But through our discussions and your incredible insights, I've learned that taking care of yourself is actually the foundation of all healthy relationships. You can't pour from an empty cup, right? The evolution of this show has been a direct reflection of my own growth. Remember those early episodes where I was trying so hard to have all the answers? Now I know that the real magic happens when we all acknowledge that we're figuring this out together. Some of our most powerful moments have come from simply being honest about not having it all figured out. What's really beautiful is how this journey has shown me that building community isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. Every time one of us shares something vulnerable, it creates this ripple effect of authenticity. Your messages, your stories, your courage in sharing your experiences, that's what shaped this space into what it is today. I've learned that relationships, whether romantic, familial, or friendship, are living, breathing things that need space to grow and change. Sometimes they flourish, sometimes they need pruning, and sometimes they need to be let go entirely. And you know what? That's all part of the journey. You know what absolutely blows my mind? The incredible community we've built together over this past year. When I think about where we started and where we are now, it genuinely makes me emotional. And I'm not just saying that. I literally got teary-eyed reading some of your messages the other day. There's this beautiful thing that happens where someone will share something vulnerable, and within minutes, there's this outpouring of love and understanding. No judgment, no harsh words, just pure, genuine support. In a world where online spaces can be pretty brutal, you've helped create this safe haven where people can be completely themselves. As we step into our second year of Heartbeat Chronicles, I can barely contain my excitement about what's ahead. We've got some absolutely incredible episodes lined up, including some guest appearances that honestly I still can't believe are happening. But you know what would make them even better? Your input. I want to hear from you. What topics keep you up at night? What relationship dilemmas are you wrestling with? What conversations do you wish people were having more openly? Your stories and questions aren't just content for the show. They're the heartbeat of this community. Slide into my DMs, leave a comment, or send a voice note. I read and listen to everything, and your ideas often spark the most meaningful episodes. If you're loving what we're doing here, spread the word. Share your favorite episodes with someone who might need to hear them. Tag us in your stories when something resonates with you. Let's make this next year even more amazing than the last. Because Heartbeat Chronicles isn't just my podcast. It's our shared space for real talk, growth, and connection. And I can't wait to see where this journey takes us next. You know that feeling when you're about to start a fresh chapter? That mix of excitement and possibility that comes with a new beginning? Well, that's exactly where we are right now. And I couldn't be more thrilled to dive into this journey of reflection with you. You see, I've always believed that the most powerful changes in our lives start with a simple moment of pause, taking that time to really look at where we've been and dream about where we want to go. It's like having a heart-to-heart with yourself. And trust me, those can be the most transformative conversations you'll ever have. We're going to explore some really juicy journaling prompts that have personally helped me gain clarity and purpose. We'll talk about the lessons we're carrying forward, the stuff we're leaving behind, good riddance, and the exciting goals we're setting for ourselves. Think of it as your personal roadmap to an incredible 2025, and I'll be right here, sharing my own experiences and cheering you on every step of the way. You know, sitting here reflecting on 2024, I can't help but smile at how much growth can happen in just 12 months. Let me share 3 big lessons that completely transformed my perspective this year. First up, embracing vulnerability. I used to think being vulnerable was this scary thing to avoid at all costs. But here's the funny thing. The moments when I felt most connected with you all, they were when I opened up about my struggles. It taught me that our so-called weaknesses can actually be our superpowers. Then there's the whole consistency thing. Let me tell you, showing up for this podcast week after week wasn't always Instagram worthy. Some days I was recording in my pajamas, fighting off a cold, or dealing with tech issues that made me want to throw my microphone out the window. But you know what? Those small, consistent steps added up to something amazing. It's like building a house, one brick at a time, and suddenly you've got this beautiful structure you can hardly believe you created. The biggest game changer, though, learning about boundaries and self-care. I used to be that person who'd say yes to everything, trying to be superhuman. Spoiler alert, it didn't work out so well. I remember this one week where I had back-to-back interviews, client meetings, and family commitments. I was running on empty, and the quality of everything suffered. That's when it hit me. Taking care of myself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Now, I have my non-negotiables: morning meditation, workout sessions, and completely unplugged Sundays. And honestly, I'm showing up as a better person in every area of my life because of it. Looking back, these lessons weren't always easy to learn. Some came with tears, others with uncomfortable realizations. But isn't it amazing how our biggest challenges often become our greatest teachers? These aren't just lessons anymore. They're part of who I am, and I'm carrying them proudly into 2025. Let's talk about what we're leaving behind in 2024, because sometimes moving forward means knowing what to let go of. You know what's first on my goodbye list? That pesky self-doubt that loves to show up uninvited. I've spent way too many moments second-guessing myself, wondering if I'm good enough or if I'm making the right choices. But here's the thing. That self-doubt, it's never served me well. Not once has it made anything better. Then there's my old friend perfectionism. Oh, the hours I've wasted waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect words, the perfect everything. Remember when I delayed launching this podcast for 3 whole months because I wanted everything to be just right? Looking back, I can't help but laugh. Because guess what? The imperfect moments have often been the most memorable ones. And let's talk about negative energy, both from within and from those around us. I've learned that energy is contagious. And just like you wouldn't want to catch a cold, you definitely don't want to catch unnecessary negativity. This year, I had to make some tough decisions about relationships and situations that were draining rather than nurturing. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. The beautiful thing about letting go is that it creates space for something new. Every time I've released one of these things, whether it's self-doubt, perfectionism, or negative energy, something amazing has rushed in to fill that space. When I stopped doubting myself, I found courage. When I let go of perfectionism, I discovered creativity. And when I distanced myself from negative energy, I attracted people and opportunities that aligned with my goals. Here's what I've realized. Holding on to these things is like trying to run a marathon with weights strapped to your ankles. Sure, you can do it, but why would you want to? In 2025, I'm running light. I'm choosing progress over perfection, confidence over self-doubt, and positive energy over negativity. And you know what? It already feels liberating just saying it out loud. Think about it. What would your life look like if you weren't held back by these things? What could you achieve if you just decided to let them go? Because sometimes the biggest step forward is simply choosing to release what's holding us back. Now, let's get specific about setting achievable goals because dreaming big is great, but having a clear plan is what turns those dreams into reality. I'll share my own goal for January 2025 as an example, fully monetizing this podcast and expanding our community across platforms. But here's the key. It's not just about saying, I want to monetize. It's about breaking that big goal down into measurable steps. For me, that means setting specific subscriber targets, planning sponsored content opportunities, and creating multiple revenue streams through merchandise and exclusive content. Each of these components has its own timeline and specific metrics for success. Let's talk about how to set goals that actually work. First, make them specific. Instead of saying, I want to be more successful, try, I want to increase my income by 20% through 3 specific revenue streams. See the difference? The second version gives you something concrete to work towards. Next, make sure your goals are measurable. How will you know when you've achieved them? For my podcast monetization goal, I have specific numbers in mind for subscriber growth, engagement rates, and monthly revenue. These numbers give me clear benchmarks to track my progress. Time-bound goals are crucial too. That's why I'm specifically focusing on June 2025. Having a deadline creates urgency and helps prevent procrastination. But remember, the timeline needs to be realistic. You want to challenge yourself, not set yourself up for failure. Here's a practical tip I found incredibly helpful. Break your big goal into 90-day chunks. What needs to happen in the first 3 months? The second? The third? This approach makes even the most ambitious goals feel manageable. For example, my first 90 days will focus on building our YouTube presence and establishing partnerships with potential sponsors. Remember, goals should excite you but not overwhelm you. If your goal makes you feel paralyzed instead of motivated, it might be too big. Scale it back, break it down further, or extend your timeline. There's no shame in adjusting your goals to make them more achievable. You know what really gets me excited? Seeing how far we've all come together. Every single step forward, no matter how small, is worth celebrating. And that's exactly what I want to talk about today. Celebrating our wins and building this amazing community we've created. Think about all those moments when you pushed through self-doubt, tried something new, or finally took that first step toward your goals. These aren't just personal victories. They're stories that can inspire others who might be facing similar challenges. That's why I'm thrilled to announce our anniversary hashtag, #HeartbeatTurns1. I want to hear your stories, your wins, your lessons learned. Maybe you finally started that side hustle you've been dreaming about, or perhaps you learned to set better boundaries in your relationships. Whatever progress you've made, it matters. When you share these moments using #HeartbeatTurns1, you're not just celebrating your own journey. You're becoming part of a bigger story, inspiring others who might need that extra push to start their own journey. Social media can be so much more than just likes and comments. It can be a space where we lift each other up, share our experiences, and create meaningful connections. Whether it's on Instagram, YouTube, or any other platform, every time you engage with our community, you're helping create a support system for someone else who might be exactly where you were a year ago. I'd love to see you share your reflections, your goals, or even your struggles. Post a photo that represents your growth this year, write about a lesson you've learned, or create a video about your journey. Tag it with #HeartbeatTurns1, and let's show the world what real, authentic growth looks like. Remember, your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now. As we wrap up today's episode, I want you to remember something incredibly important. Your journey of growth and self-discovery is uniquely yours, and that's what makes it beautiful. Whether you're diving into those journal prompts we discussed, setting ambitious goals for January, or simply taking a moment to acknowledge how far you've come, you're doing important work. Take out that journal, open your notes app, or simply find a quiet moment to reflect. Ask yourself those powerful questions we talked about. What lessons are you carrying forward? What are you ready to leave behind? What exciting goals are calling your name? Don't forget to share your journey with our incredible community. Use #HeartbeatTurns1 to connect with others who are walking similar paths. Your story, your insights, your growth, they all matter. And they might just be the inspiration someone else needs to take their first step. And hey, if you're feeling a bit uncertain or overwhelmed, that's completely okay. Remember, growth isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Start small, celebrate every win, and know that you've got an entire community cheering you on. Until next time, keep reflecting, keep growing, and most importantly, keep sharing your heart with the world. Your voice matters, and I can't wait to see what amazing things you'll accomplish in 2025. See you in the next episode. I can't imagine we have come to the end of this episode. I must say, this episode has brought nostalgic memories from where we started, and it has been a journey. Now, to celebrate this amazing milestone, we've got some incredible treats lined up for you. First up, we're thrilled to announce an exclusive 50% discount on all Beducated subscription courses. Yes, you heard that right. Half off. This is your chance to dive into their amazing online courses at an unbeatable price. You can grab this fantastic deal by heading over to our Instagram handle at heartbeat_chronicles or checking out my personal handle at _soulfulriley. But don't wait too long. This special offer is only valid until January 12th. But wait, there's more. We've also got something special cooking in our merch store. If you've been eyeing those cute Heartbeat Chronicles mugs or cozy hoodies, now's your chance to snag them at amazing prices. We've got everything from stylish t-shirts and sweatshirts to practical tote bags and travel mugs, all with special anniversary discounts. These aren't just products. They're pieces of our journey together, designed with love for our soulful community. To make it super easy for you, all the links to these special offers are right in our Instagram bio. Whether you're treating yourself or looking for the perfect gift for a fellow soul searcher, these anniversary specials are our way of saying thank you for being part of our first year. Remember, these are limited time offers, so make sure to grab them while you can. You know, there's something incredibly special about this community we've built together over the past year. To every single one of our soulful ambassadors who've taken the time to like, comment, and share your thoughts with us, you've made this journey absolutely magical. Your engagement, your stories, and your constant support have turned this podcast into more than just a show. It's become a genuine family of kindred spirits. Every comment you've left, every message you've shared, and every story you've told has touched our hearts in ways we never expected. You've opened up about your own experiences, shared your vulnerabilities, and celebrated your victories with us. That kind of trust and openness is something we don't take lightly. To those who tune in faithfully every week, whether you're listening during your morning commute, your evening walk, or while winding down at night, thank you. Even if you've never left a comment or sent a message, just knowing you're out there taking this journey with us means the world. You've helped create this safe space where we can all be authentic, vulnerable, and real together. This first year has been an incredible adventure, and it's all because of you, our wonderful community of soulful ambassadors. Your energy, your enthusiasm, and your willingness to grow alongside us have made every moment worthwhile. We're not just celebrating our anniversary. We're celebrating each one of you who've made Heartbeat Chronicles what it is today. Now let me tell you what's brewing for Season 3. And trust me, you won't want to miss a single episode. We've been working behind the scenes to create something truly extraordinary that will take our heart-to-heart conversations to whole new depths. We're bringing in some amazing guests, tackling topics that you've been asking for, and adding some exciting new segments that will leave you counting down the days until each new episode drops. But here's the thing. I want to make sure you don't miss out on any of this goodness. If you haven't already, now's the perfect time to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. Whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pods Network, or your favorite podcast platform, Just tap that button. It takes 2 seconds, but it means you'll be first in line when we drop our new episodes. And if Heartbeat Chronicles has touched your heart in any way, why not spread the love? Share your favorite episode with someone who might need these conversations in their life. You never know. That one share could be exactly what someone needs to hear today. Our social media family is growing too, and we'd love to have you join us there. Follow us on Instagram at heartbeat_chronicles, where we share daily doses of inspiration, behind-the-scenes peeks, and exclusive content you won't find anywhere else. It's where our community really comes alive between episodes, and I personally love connecting with you there. I can't wait to embark on this next chapter with you. Season 3 is going to be a beautiful journey of growth, connection, and soulful conversations that will touch your heart in ways you never expected. Trust me, you're going to want to be part of this. As we stand on the threshold of 2025, I want to take a moment to invite you into something special. Your journey, your story, your hopes for the new year, they matter deeply to us. What are your dreams for 2025? What transformations are you hoping to embrace? We'd love to hear your thoughts, your reflections, and even your fears about the year ahead. Share your story with us on Instagram using #heartbeatturns1 or send us an email. Your words might just be the inspiration someone else needs to hear. Remember, this community isn't just about listening. It's about sharing, growing, and lifting each other up. You know, there's something magical about new beginnings. They're like blank pages waiting for us to write our stories. Whether 2024 was your best year or one filled with challenges, 2025 is offering us all a fresh start. And I truly believe that when we approach it with an open heart and unwavering hope, beautiful things begin to unfold. As you step into this new year, remember that you're not walking alone. Our Heartbeat Chronicles community is here, walking alongside you, cheering you on, and holding space for all that you're becoming. Let's make 2025 a year of intentional growth, deep connections, and bold dreams. May this year bring you moments that make your heart skip a beat, conversations that touch your soul, and opportunities that align with your deepest purpose. Here's to embracing 2025 with courage, grace, and an unwavering belief in the possibilities that lie ahead. Until next time, keep letting your heart lead the way. Soulful Ambassadors, we wrap up the first episode of Season 3 and officially celebrate one incredible year of Heartbeat Chronicles. I cannot thank you enough for being part of this journey. Your support, messages, and love have been the heartbeat of this podcast. As we step into 2025 with our theme of growth, I hope you've been inspired to reflect on your own journey and set meaningful goals for the year ahead. Remember, it's not about perfection, but about progress and celebrating every step forward, no matter how small. This year, we're going bigger and deeper, with new collaborations, engaging topics, and opportunities for all of us to connect on a more personal level. Episode 2 is already shaping up to be something special, so stay tuned for that next week. Until then, I encourage you to embrace 2025 with hope, courage, and intention. Don't forget to share your reflections and goals using our anniversary hashtag #HeartbeatTurns1 or send me your thoughts directly. Let's keep growing, learning, and thriving together. Thank you for listening, thank you for showing up, and thank you for believing in this vision. Here's to another beautiful year of connection, love, and soulful conversations. Until next time, take care and remember, you are always enough.